Welcome to another edition of Resilient Living Podcast, a show dedicated to improving quality of life of both people and planet through liberation and independence, moving you from surviving to thriving and living life on your own terms. My name is Adrian Babashoff, and today is episode 16, and it is Homestead Realities and Opportunities. What better way, I think, for those who want to live a sustainable or resilient life than to start a homestead and start growing your own food, raising your own animals, buy your land, get out of the rat race. And how much land do we need? What are we going to grow? How are we going to grow? What opportunities do we even have out there? I think we have a lot of opportunities, and I'm going to talk about that today because I think a lot of people don't think about the subject matter that we're going to speak about right now. So I think that in the future we're going to have lots more available to us because of the shortfalls of other people's not thinking completely through and not having the full blown experience such as I have working on a farm, living off where we produce almost 100% of our own food and things in South America and Uruguay. I lived in a different country, full-blown homestead. I am lucky enough, I think, privileged, and I do mean that, to be able to plow with horse and plow, meaning a strap around your shoulder, holding a metal plow in your hand, powered by a horse. I was very young back then, but that was definitely something that changed the course of my life. I could never get it out of my system. So enough about all that, though. The background noise is my F-350 pickup truck. I do these podcasts on my work commute. But let's jump into it. Those who, let me see here. Yes, those who came before you. So I do a lot of research. I have lived it when I was younger. This is third world country, but I still do some homesteading things now, but in a different way. But I am aiming to do this and full with my life. I want to change the course of my life and get back on the farm. So I research a lot of, those who came before me, what did they have to say? One of the things that I found is there's all these little clues, and one of them is that a lot of people became old. You know, as time went by, things began to get a little bit too laborious for them. And a lot of them actually found that it was easier to join a community, meaning an eco-village, an intentional community, where a bunch of people live together on the land and everybody's working in unison, splitting up all the labor and all the hard work. So a lot of people, a lot of old-timers that have been on property for a very long time, key ingredient that I found is they says that they wouldn't be able to do it themselves and stay sustainable if it wasn't for all the internship and people coming and helping. Otherwise, they said, it's become too much. And sometimes I think even if when you're in your younger days, younger in age, a lot of the stuff is very, very difficult, depending on how much you're going to use technology such as tractors and computers and things like that. And there's a lot to it. Doing it yourself considerations is next on my notes. So we got animals. We have basically live things on the farm. And when we have live things on the farm, I think you want to take in consideration that you're pretty much married to the farm. I don't think a lot of people, that's why I say that we have future opportunities, is when you have even plants. So you have cows, sheep, goats, dogs, cats. Just look at your pets. Like a lot of people in the city have to get a pet sitter just so they can go out. What do you think's happening on a farm? I mean, there's a heck of a lot more that goes on a farm. You can lose an entire flock of chickens if somebody wasn't there to close the door, or if you're using those automated doors where they'll close at, say, 30 minutes after dark, or you can do it from your cell phone. But are you sure that all the chickens are in? Are you sure that maybe a little stone or something didn't block the door from completely closing, and now you got a pack of coyotes over there ripping your entire chicken flock apart, and you just lost everything? And especially if you're there depending on these things for your sustenance, for meat. Chickens relatively, I think, there's a turnaround of about 16 weeks or so. 14 to 16 weeks, give or take, if memory serves me correctly, where you can start again from chicks for meat birds. But that's depending on where you live. If it's cold or it's hot, the weather may not permit you to do those. So it's a great loss. So you may want to take in consideration that once you're on the land and you're working it, you are married to that land. You are married to those animals. And that's why getting some farm hands or some sort of help. Why do you think in the old days they had so many children? It was ridiculous. What, they have like 12 or 14 kids, some families? And they did this because they needed the help. I'm sure they love each one of their children equally, all 12 of them. But yeah, it was very convenient for them. So there's many things that we can do. I can't go, we limit these shows to 15 minutes, but I'm going to try to get as much out as possible as I can for you guys. Now, one of the things I can see is a barter system where we all trade, depending on if your neighbors, if you're friendly with your neighbors are friendly with you, that you can barter where you can do a farm sitting thing, where when you're gone, if you wanted to leave just for a weekend or something, they got you. My problem is a lot of people say they're going to do something and they don't do it, and that's my livestock. Oops, my bad, I'm sorry. Doesn't really work out when my entire flock of chickens is gone, because are you going to give me a whole nother flock of chickens, right? So very, very difficult. I don't want to stray people aside. I think that you just really need to figure these things out. You need to put these things into reality. In my mind's eye, a lot of people are in love with the idea, but not the reality of things. So that's when I say I think that a lot of people are going to get into this homestead thing, this whole back to the land movement, and I don't think they're conditioned to do these things. They're not prepared. They think that they know, but when you get into it, I think you get old really fast. So I think that a lot of people are going to end up selling land, or they're going to be maybe offering for people to utilize their land. So even if you don't own land, you can look up something such as spin farming, where a lot of people don't just grow vegetables as the traditional spin farm suggests. There's a lot of people who actually do polyculture and things like that, where they actually raise animals, even cows, on somebody else's property. So it gives us lots of opportunity. Well, how much land, if you were going to buy, how much land would you be able to seek? Now, again, in my research, what I've been looking for is key strategies, key points of how much land per person do we need. Now, there are a few people who suggested that they were able to feed one person, or maybe a person and a half, off such things as like a quarter acre, or even some that were smaller. Now, when people say they fed, like some people say like this salad feeds families. Well, there's a distinction between fed them dinner once a week or fed them. So I'm looking for fed. What I've come to understand, and again, I haven't practiced this myself in many, many decades since I was a child, but from what I'm learning nowadays is that it seems like the magic number is about an acre per person. And this is intensive growing. This is utilizing animals for protein, such things as rabbits and chickens. I don't know about goats and things like that. I have my opinions on having goats. I don't think they're a really great idea, but this is intensive growing, and again, it depends on where you're at. If you're in Wisconsin or something, or Oregon, Oregon State, you're going to be, you only have such a window to be able to grow your food year-round. So you better well be canning and preserving, dehydrating, and all those kind of things to make sure that you're going to get through those winters. I've lived in the state of Oregon, and I'm pretty sure that everywhere on the planet's like this. It's never the same. We've had one year where there was 1 month of summer, and that was it. It just went down to freezing cold. I mean cold. It didn't go down to like freezing where everything's iced over yet, but it was cold and not a lot of sun, a lot of overcast. So things to take in consideration. So yeah, pretty much an acre of land per person is a good number that I think that you can work on. Now, when we are advocates of permaculture and also doing things for nature, a rule of thumb of what people like to say is to leave about 5 to 10% feral land. We want to leave this for habitat for the snails, and what I like is for like ladybugs, praying mantises, lizards, and things like that. Of course, if you're practicing permaculture and it's all natural, you're going to get, you're going to be utilizing the way you grow to have habitat for nature. But pretty much when you start introducing livestock and things like that, livestock, depending on like cows, even chickens, they call them dinos. And you put a chicken in a chicken tractor, which is basically like a pen that's movable, a chicken coop that you can move around. These guys will decimate a piece of land. So if you want to get away from having feed, you want zero inputs. That's very difficult on 1 acre of land, especially I would say maybe like 5 chickens or so, meaning that you're going to put them inside of a paddock, inside of a little square. They're going to eat up everything that's in that area. You're going to need to move them every like 2 days or so, depending on how big these paddocks are, these pens. So a lot of things to take in consideration is that how much land per person, but how much land per animal. for your livestock. You start looking at cows, and if you're going to raise cows peacefully and you're going to raise them naturally, it's something ridiculous. Like, I think it was like 100 acres or something for like, and you want to get no less than 5 cows, because these cows have a herding mentality, and they like to roam around. They have feelings. They have all kinds of, they need to spend time with each other. And I'm driving, and they're telling me us all to turn around, and I'm in a truck and trailer, and I am pinned and stuck. Well, this is going to be interesting. Well, maybe I'll park on the side of the road, and we'll finish the show off. So, yeah. So how much land for nature? We talked about that already. Who's going to pay? Well, you know what, before we get further, a lot of people like to raise chickens in chicken coops and things like that, and this is very dangerous for me. I don't like, you can put like a layer of hay, like about a foot and a half deep, and they're saying that it absorbs a lot of the poop and things like that for chickens, and it doesn't really smell that bad, but you got to realize whenever we're raising live animals that they want to poop, right, a lot. And when you're raising animals and they're sleeping or climbing remotely in their own feces, this is something very dirty and very nasty. And this is when we want to get something where we can keep them moving. So that's where I like pastured, raising them in pasture, like what do you call it? Like in grass and things like that, and keep them moving. I'm sorry, guys, I'm getting a little distracted. They just shut down the entire road here. I got to figure out how and where I'm going to turn around. But I'm just going to park on the side of the road and finish this. So, yeah, you want to make sure that you have enough land where you can raise animals humanely, I think. They do need to roam around, even chickens and rabbits and things like that. You want to make sure that they stay clean. So consider getting more land if you're going to be raising meat birds or any type of livestock. So let's move on next. So who's going to pay for it? Every project that usually comes out, people will say that they never expected to have to pay so much. That there was things that they didn't account for. You buy yourself a tractor, you got to keep up the infrastructure for things like this. You build yourself a chicken coop. In time, pretty much to cut it short here, is that everything has wear and tear, especially if we're going to live sustainable and resilient. Top of things on my mind comes out to the black locust tree, where it's naturally hardwood. You got things like eucalyptus and stuff like that. The best one that I can see is like timber bamboo. It's the big, thick bamboo that's like 8 inches, 10 inches thick, depending, again, where you live. Now, if you can grow stuff like this, you have things growing and readily available for yourself. So, but we need things to harvest them, such as saws, chainsaws, and we need to buy gas, and we need to change the oil in these things. So you see where this all goes. I think that a lot of people have failed because of the not seeking too much into the infrastructure of things, and the infrastructure of farms. There's another thing, if you're depending on all this stuff, it's which brings me to my next note here, is the predictable unpredictability. A change on words here. So what I mean is that one year may not be the same as the other. You may lose animals, you may lose a lot of crops and things like that. And this is where we'll need to have money to back things up. And there's a lot of things that we can't produce unless you invested in such machines to do such things as, create sugar, right? You're not going to get to create sugar. You can grow stevia and things like that, or maybe you can raise honeybees. But you're not going to create salt unless you live by the ocean. You're not going to be able to get your own oils if you're cooking with oils. So a lot of different things we got to take into consideration. We're still going to need money if we're going to live with those things. Back in the day, the reality, not the dream. A lot of people lived their lives without all of these things. So it's not the same. They definitely sacrificed. They definitely had different lives from what we have. So that's the show, guys. I hope the main thing on here is that I think a lot of us, would be best for us to practice before we start doing anything. Really use your imagination. Really do your research to look at other people and find out what they're doing, what they're not doing, what's worked, what hasn't worked, and looking at such things as infrastructure. The one thing I can say, again, is that any project you've ever done, what you think you need, you might want to double that, right? As far as money and income and things like that. And to make an income off a farm is not very easy. But also, if you are a seasoned person ready to do these kind of things, well, the way I look at it, as I said, is a lot of people are going to make this mistake, and they're not going to really put these kind of thoughts into what they're doing in planning. And everything's a business. You guys are going to find on the life of this show that your life is a business. You should run your life like a business. What happens to a business if we don't have plans? The businesses usually fail within the first 2 years. So on a plus note, I hope that everybody gets what they're looking for. I hope that they do get to Homestead. We need homesteaders. We need people to do these things, so it's good for the planet, good for the people. But a lot of people are going to lose out, and I think that that's the time when people like you and I can pick up these pieces of property, and we can pick up where other people left off. So that's the show, guys. If I brought you guys any value, again, please like and subscribe, comment. Give me a thumbs up, thumbs down. Help me get the show off the ground. We're going to keep doing this 5 days a week, 15-minute intervals here. But I need you guys' help to know that you guys are out there. And I really appreciate it, only if I've given you guys any kind of value here. So it's Resilient L Podcast. You guys can message me directly, email me. Let me know if you guys have at gmail.com. Resilientlpodcast at gmail.com. You guys can let me know what you guys want to hear about, how I'm doing for you guys, suggestions or anything like that. Everything's always in the show notes. There's the YouTube channel and everything else where we post these things and other things as well. And as I always say, guys, go out there and have yourself a near life experience. Don't lose your muchness. Carry on the fire and human up, my friends.